Man, so much to talk about today. An election coming up. The market's crashing, 10% off its highs now. We have earnings. Everybody reporting earnings this week. Crazy. I'm going to get to all these topics, but I wanted to start out with Wyoming, the site I just came back from, the site visit. First time I traveled since COVID, basically. I think my last trip might have been in late January. Plane was perfectly safe. I mean, more safe than if you were at your house. I mean, recircling that air every 2 minutes. You have masks covering your face unless you're eating something, but they have to be on pretty much the whole flight, and they're giving out just antiseptics, all kinds of thing to wipe down your the front, the back, everything, and people wiping down everything. I mean, it's very, very safe to fly. And that's Delta, and Delta wasn't allowing anyone in the middle seats. I heard that's changing. I'm hearing that Spirit is different. I'm hearing that United is different. I'm pretty sure American still no middle seats, but it's been pretty safe. I said, hey, let me take the plunge. Took a couple trips. One of them was to Wyoming. Man, I loved it. I love the small town atmosphere. It's really great. So great that it was 63 degrees, and the day I left, it was 1 degree. If you saw Denver, we flew into Denver, Colorado. You see the snow in football when they played. Just crazy. But I went there to meet a lot of high-profile people. One of them was Ryan Zinke, former Secretary of Interior for Trump, retired Navy SEAL commander. I spent the whole day with him in Wyoming, where went to lunch, dinner, some boots on the ground research on a mining site. It was just a really, really incredible trip, which, again, was my first since late January. Right, it's so many great stories. Trying to get him on the podcast, which he agreed to do, but he's traveling this whole week, busy man. He's trying to find a window at the airport, which he could do this interview. So I'm going to try to have him on next week if we can. But he was sharing so many amazing stories just from being around Trump Jr., Pelosi, Schumer. It's just funny when you hear like the inside stories, you know, a couple of cool things, and just funny things that you don't hear out there, right? Some of those stories. And he also told some great stories about being a Navy SEAL. I mean, the advancements in technology. He was teaching Navy SEALs, the tours he was on overseas and in the Middle East. Crazy stuff, man. Really crazy stuff that you don't hear those stories often, and just to hear it and put yourself there, just be like, wow, holy, this is like insane. It really is. But just really cool stuff. I really enjoyed the trip. But this idea and the company I went to go see, it's something I'd like to share with my subscribers next month. It's a company you can't buy yet, but you'll be able to buy next month. And I say I may share because I still have to do a little bit more due diligence. But thus far, I mean, super impressed. Checks off lots of boxes in terms of investing in a junior minor with an incredible management team. Has large insider ownership, which means they have stake in the game. Big people and big name people involved. Great geography, Wyoming, one of the best places, not just to mine in the U.S., but in the world. Infrastructure already in place, electricity, water, because this is a past-producing mine. It's a deposit I needed to see for myself, which actually blew me away. And just the people involved, it was very positive. I was excited. I went there with low expectations. I came back very positive, but still have to do some more due diligence on it. If you're a subscriber, I will be sharing that idea, which is definitely off everyone's radar with you. Probably next month, maybe in about 6 weeks or so, if everything goes as planned. And I really like the company after I finish the full due diligence process. But I came back on Thursday, and then on Friday night, I took my family to Disney for the weekend. Right, so right after I got back, so really busy traveling. Drove there. We're in Florida. It was my wife's birthday on Saturday. Happy birthday, hon. And we took the kids and stayed on Disney property. It was Animal Kingdom. We had cool views of giraffes, zebras right from our room. It was really, really nice. We haven't gone on vacation over a year. I've been very, very busy, plus COVID. And, we just need to get away, especially with a lot of crazy stuff coming up. I'll get to in a minute. Really exciting news. But the resort that we were at, pretty crowded on Saturday and Sunday, but empty on Monday. We left on Monday. So they were saying that, the weekend's a little bit more busier than during the week, obviously, and kids are going back to school in Florida, so it makes sense. But we went to Animal Kingdom, the actual park, on Sunday. And as you know, Disney parks, they're at 25% capacity. In California, they're still closed. I think it'll be closed at the end of the year. Now, 25% capacity, you would think, wow, I want to go there. This will be cool. It's not going to be crowded. It was packed. Why? Because they're closing off a lot of parts of the parks. There's no shows, right? If you ever see the shows, there's probably 3 or 4 of them going on. And I would say about 20% of the people there are going to go to their shows for 45 minutes. No people painting faces, no games. Most food places were closed. Restaurants were open, the Disney restaurants, but you had to pre-order. So we were hungry around 12:30 and said, okay, ready to get something to eat. And then they're like, well, did you pre-order? And you had to go on their app, and it was 60 to 90 minutes to get your food. So we just bought hot dogs, which I don't like hot dogs, for $10 each. $10 a hot dog, right? They're raising prices across the board. It did come with a small bag of chips, though, which, okay, that justifies $10, but it was $3.50 for water. And they're just jacking up the prices on everything. You know, I guess that shouldn't be a surprise, right? With 25% of capacity. But I'll tell you, this is the most important takeaway. Tons of arguments. People clearly sick of wearing masks. I'm not being political here or suggesting people don't wear masks. I'm just telling you what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing. That's what this podcast is going to be about. Kids, my kids wear a mask. Everyone wear a mask. You have to wear it over your nose outside on all Disney properties, right? So my kids wear a mask along with us. You can only take it off if you're eating, you're drinking, or you come off the path and you're just like sitting down. Then you can take it off and just, get for drinking and eating, but you have to have it on if you're walking around no matter what. And it is hard to wear a mask for 7 to 8 hours in 85-degree heat. Let me tell you something. I mean, our throats were sore the next day. I spent at least $4 on water, which is, like 10 bottles for my family. And 85 degrees is kind of cool for Orlando. In the summer, it's 95 plus. I have no idea if this happens to last into next summer or when it gets warmer, how Disney's going to survive this. It's just, I even asked my kids and I said, hey, if we stayed another day, and I said, we're not staying another day, don't get your expectations up. I got to go back, very busy for work. Would you want to go to Disney Park? They both said no because of the masks. That's how bad it was. And we made sure we wore masks that weren't like, everyone has their personalized masks and they're probably a little thicker than the 95 ones. And we wore more of the thinner ones. And we were told that from people who have memberships there, that having those thicker masks on, you're not even going to be able to breathe all day, right? I mean, we're used to putting them on when we go into stores. We don't really have them on at home. Around our families, or when we go out, we put them on. We're in the store for whatever, a few minutes. If we go to a restaurant, we have to put them on. When we sit down, we take them off. You don't really have a mask on for 8-10 hours. And I feel for the people who own their own businesses and retail operations. I have to wear these masks all day. Holy cow. But at least you're in a cool environment with Florida, and it's probably cool outside, outside of Florida out there with the winter here coming soon. But when you're outside and it's hot like that, I'm telling you, it definitely impacted us. It impacted a lot of people. I mean, we had encounters with several employees who were not nice, and I get it. They're being forced to work where you can get COVID from someone who you don't even know. And they need the money to work, right? And you have Disney no longer furloughing their employees where, they said, hey, you know what? We have to lay them off now. 28,000 employees, because you have the California parks are not going to open until next year. But it's sad. I mean, Disney is a great American brand. But I tell you, when it comes to COVID, by far the most impacted large cap company. And no recurrent revenue streams. That's why they're getting into streaming. They're just starting, but still, it's a huge. They're going to lose billions and billions of dollars in streaming over the next 5 years. Hollywood is shut down still. People are still not going to theaters. By the way, I just saw a corporate survey from a very respectable firm. It puts these out by the week, and these are corporate surveys from CEOs of major companies, Fortune 500 companies, and it showed that even from their point of view, and also there was another study I saw. So it's not just a corporate studies, but it was also a consumer study showing that people are more scared to go to the movies today than back in May. And they had all these topics listed, everything. Restaurants were actually high. I mean, it was lower, in May. Now people feel a little bit more comfortable. Public transportation was down like the same levels. But you're looking at gyms, people are still scared. But I was just very surprised to see when it comes to theaters, people are more scared of going to theaters today than they were in May, which is pretty insane when you think about it. But hey, those are the numbers, those are the surveys that are out there that I'm seeing, which doesn't bode well for Disney or theater owners. Maybe that's not a good play. The economy open up eventually. Now, the parks still closed or operating at reduced capacity. Cruises grounded. Yeah, I know Disney's going to report. They're going to report strong Disney Plus numbers, right? We're expected. We're going all in on Disney Plus restructuring, and the stock actually went up a little bit. Remember, when major companies announce major restructurings, it's because shit's not going right. Right? It should be a positive. It should be like, whoa, okay, everything's closed. We have no revenue coming in. We took on more debt than we've ever taken on, and we're going all in on a business that is a very, very high capital-intensive business. So you're going to see Disney Plus subscriber numbers go higher. Maybe the stock goes higher. That's what people care about. But they're going to need to spend over $10 billion annually to compete with Netflix on new content. I mean, Netflix before COVID, they were going to spend $17 billion. That's what streaming is about. It's new content. You want to get excited about new content. And people are not streaming things. Maybe when you first got Disney, okay, well, I haven't seen like an Avenger movie in a while. You want new content. That's what streaming's about. That's what you're paying for. That's why no one ever cancels Netflix. All the new content coming out. And it costs a fortune to produce new content, which Netflix has figured out. You have Apple, massive balance sheet. Amazon, huge balance sheet. AT&T generating $29 billion annually in free cash flow. And when people are just constantly paying their wireless bills. And, Disney doesn't have that. So now they're sitting on $43 billion in net debt. I mean, by far the biggest deposition the company have had in its history. Yet they're only projected to generate $2.5 billion of free cash flow in 2021 and about $1.7 billion of free cash flow this year, which is projected. And that might sound like a lot of money, but to put in perspective, Disney, before paying whatever it was, $70, $80 billion of Fox's assets in 2019, right before COVID, terrible timing, and taking on that massive debt load, they were generating in 2017 $8 billion of free cash flow and then $10 billion of free cash flow for 2018. So 17 was $8 billion, 18 was $10 billion. Now that they're expected to generate over the next 2 years a combined, $4 billion? Less than that? I mean, it's crazy. And not to mention, most of their employees do not want to work at these parks during COVID, which presents a big problem for them. So it's like a perfect storm for this company. I don't see it getting any better through 2021, even into 2022. Yet the stock is trading at 50 times forward earnings and a massive growth multiple that you could say, hey, 75, 100x multiple is great for some of these companies. Peloton's putting up amazing numbers. You order a Peloton, it's December 23rd right now is the quickest you can get it, which, is a problem in itself, but you're seeing the demand. You see in Zoom, you're seeing massive growth. You're seeing a company where, earnings. If you're looking at earnings in 2018, Disney generated over $8 a share in earnings, close to $7 a share in 2017. In 2020, they reported a loss. Okay, COVID. 2021, it's going to go to $2. 2022 is going to go to $4, which is still down 40% from pre-COVID levels. Yet this company's trading at a massive premium, and just being there and going to the parks, again, it's a great brand. But it's impacted on every single level when it comes to COVID. But what do I know? I mean, you had Loeb and Tepper, two of the pretty smart guys, best fund managers, arguably, in the world. They bought Disney last quarter. They're down on it now because the whole market's coming down. But, man, it's going to be very interesting to see how Disney gets out of this. Now, I don't want to sound too bleak on everything. It's important that I saw this trip. You got a good sentiment of what's going on. But there was an interesting stat on COVID that I saw, which is very positive and would be super positive for Disney. Okay, I want to give you the positives and the negatives here. So one of the best analysts in the biotech industry, his name is Josh Schimmer. He's from Evercore, been analyst for nearly 2 decades in the space, ranked number 1 in the industry past 2 years, and like number 2 to 2 years before that. Very smart guy, someone I respect, believes that the vaccine from Pfizer, Novavax, that vaccine is going to have an efficacy rate of 95% plus. 95% plus. Sounds like a lot. Let me put it in perspective. Okay, that's how effective you think it's going to be. So if we want to put that in perspective, when we look at the flu vaccine, the flu vaccine is 40% effective annually on average. I know a lot of you probably didn't know that. Only 40% effective because there's numerous strains. There's always new strains that come out. Now, here's a guy that presented great data on this. It actually said, hey, I could be wrong on this. If I am, I hope I'm right. But, based on that, there's just one strain. You're going to get 2 doses of this. But if you compare it to the MMR vaccine, use for measles, rubella, mumps, those 2 shots that you get, just like it's going to be similar here, once it's approved, Pfizer, Novavax, which hopefully is within 30 to 60 days, 93% effective in measles, 97% effective against rubella, 88% effective in mumps. That's why these have been mostly wiped out. Yes, we do know a few cases of people getting the measles, very, very rare. But you're looking at a 95%. If this guy is right that it's going to be 95% effective, you're basically going to wipe out COVID. And if this is the case, there's a couple of things to take from this. One is that if Pfizer's first in the market and these statistics hold up, and that's true, and again, he said the consensus is for 65, 70% effective. This guy's pretty smart. He could be wrong, and he says I could be wrong. But if it's at 95%, COVID's gone. And one is you should be selling the crap out of Moderna's, J&J's. Well, not so much J&J because they get revenue streams from every place else, but those companies, strictly Novios, that are just going for the vaccine, they're going to be done because you talk about hundreds of million going to be distributed immediately. I don't know. Maybe they come out a month later or 2 months later, but it's person who's first to market, which is Pfizer right now. And I said it was going to be Pfizer. I'm pretty sure it's going to be Pfizer still. And most people think it's going to be Pfizer. That's one way of looking at it. Another way is it's going to open up the economy tremendously because at 95%, you had 50% of people say, no, we're not going to take the vaccine. We're not going to take it. At 95% effective, I'm telling you, more than 50% of the people are going to take it, especially after 6 months because they're going to say, you know what, you take it first and I'll see. But, getting back to Disney, it's people were sick of wearing masks. They were sick of it. They couldn't take it anymore. Again, I'm just reporting to you. I'm not telling you not to wear masks. You should wear masks, of course. But they're getting sick of it just for the point that, hey, I understand wearing a mask when I'm sick, but the whole world has to wear a mask when they're not sick. Would you rather take that vaccine and be like, okay, I'm okay now, and I want to go out and have fun and live my life or not? That number's going to be higher than 50%. If that efficacy rate is higher than 95%. So that's positive news. Hopefully that happens. I don't know, but I want to report to you what I'm seeing out there. Again, getting back to Disney, I took my family to this entertainment center at night on International Drive, and it was booming. People on rides, hanging out. Went bowling. We had our own 2 lanes, our own little spot where I paid, get ready for this, $180 for 1 hour of bowling. Which included, a beer for my wife and I, because we were there for an hour and walking around for another 2 hours. Some finger foods, 3 or 4, plates of whatever, like just wings, mozzarella sticks for the kids and stuff like that. $108. I was like, all right, I guess, for 4 people, it's, for 1 hour, I was like, all right, but prices are going up everywhere. But that area was booming and people were out having fun, smiling, laughing, living. I loved it. And saying this all along, because how I feel about Florida, and I'm first to come on here to make fun of them, and they don't work as hard, and it's crazy down here coming from New York, but they got the COVID right. They got it right. And they open up earlier than everybody, except with Georgia, right? Open up in May. So a cases spike, they pull back a little bit, right? Then they reopen basically everything. And now you're seeing, our economy do very, very well, and we're seeing cases come down, hospitalization rates come down in Florida. But right now, the spikes that we're seeing in these cases are happening in the Midwest, right? Why? Because they're reopening. They didn't have this yet. They're reopening, and now that's what's going to happen, right? Because I know all you're reading right now is about how cases hit a new record. This is important for your portfolio, guys. So put politics aside, because all you're reading, cases hitting a new record in the U.S., you should be worried. It's the end of the world. I'm hearing that. I'm actually hearing that. Okay, let's look at the data, which is all you should care about and I care about. Again, it's data. You're going to have your opinion. If you're way left, way right, you're going to think whatever you're going to think. I'll never change your mind, even if I present perfect facts in front of you. If I'm wearing a red shirt and I'm like, here's my red shirt, everyone can see it, you're going to be like, it's blue, I don't care. I'm not talking to you people. There's no way you'll change your mind. I don't give a shit. My job is to prevent the data. This way we can make better decisions, especially about our investments. And when you look at the data, it's obvious cases are rising. And more states are opening up. We're testing more people than ever. But the key thing Most important gauge is death rate as a percentage. Continues to decline. Why is that? Because the people who are getting it and going out are people outside the danger zone. The danger zone is people over 70, which we know this impacts, and people who have underlying conditions. These are the people we need to protect. Anybody outside of the danger zone, COVID is like a bad flu. So 99% of these people are going to be okay if they get COVID. Just like every actor that got COVID that made an announcement, just like every athlete that's got COVID that made an announcement, just like almost all the people you know personally who are under 70 with no underlying conditions who got COVID. And they're now perfectly fine. Just like I'm watching my kids go to school and they're handling it great, and it's good. The people who are just like, well, I'm still cautious. Now they're seeing, wow, right, this seems to be working. The kids aren't getting COVID. But again, when you look and you see what's out there, record cases, of course. I mean, there are exceptions. I mean, I know nobody wants to see more people die from COVID. But the alternative, locking down businesses again, which is taking place across Europe. Germany just announced that they're closing bars now again, closing businesses again. I mean, some parts of Asia, even some state, New York, California, Colorado, Texas, are 4 states that are rolling back. They're rolling back after opening up a certain capacity. They're rolling it back now a little bit. But the alternative here, which is what you have to focus on, right? What's the best solution for Americans? Because the alternative, locking down everything, I mean, you see more deaths in terms of combined suicides, depression, domestic abuse. I mean, the stats are out there. Have you seen the latest statistics on cancer rates? And hospitals have stopped screening for breast cancer, all types of cancers. Screening, okay? This isn't like someone who never had cancer before and saying, okay, screen me. These are people like my wife, who's a cancer survivor, who has to get screened every 9 months, really. It could be a year, 6 months, whatever. But now they're cancer-free and they need to get screened, which could be a 3 month later, 6 months later, and yet they're not getting screened. Organ transplants have been on hold. Surgeries, brain surgery, they've been put on hold right now. I mean, it's insane, but you have to look at the whole picture. You can't just look, wow, there's going to be a lot of people that die from COVID and we don't need another 100,000 deaths. The alternative of locking down everything and praying for a vaccine that's going to be 95% effective, man, if you close down this economy, guys, holy cow. Holy cow. Now, we have the election coming up, and stocks are falling this week pretty sharply, down 10% off their highs, the S&P 500. The top headline, they're saying markets are falling because COVID cases are spiking. That's what you're reading everywhere. That's horseshit. That's the reason why you listen to this podcast. You want to listen to everything else, everyone's saying the same thing, go listen to them, fine. I'm here to tell you the real story with no agenda. Like I said, cases are going to rise as you open up the economy. It makes perfect sense. And the people getting COVID are people outside the danger zone, which is not a terrible thing, because the only solution to ending COVID, if we don't get a vaccine, is going to be through herd immunity, which we're still very far from that. But that's the only way. What do you think? Everyone's going to wear masks and stay in for 9 months and just go out and everything's going to be fine and it's going to be completely gone? Are you crazy? That's not going to happen. The COVID cases are rising. Should not be a surprise given more states are opening up their economies. And we know a lot more about this disease where 99% of people who get it outside the danger zone are going to be fine. You say, Frank, why the market's selling off? I'm going to tell you. And before you get pissed off, please listen, because I don't have an agenda here. I promise you. But the market is selling off for one key reason. It's because Biden is leading in key battleground states across the polls. And the Democrats are also projected to sweep. Okay, take over the Senate. They have the House already. I'm not being political here. Hear me out. Before you send me an email, frankcurzioresearch.com, I'm an asshole, you love Trump. Before you send me that, hear me out. Because this isn't coming from me. This is what Wall Street is telling their clients. Goldman, Bank of America, JP Morgan, I know because I have access to these people. I have access to these reports. I read them thoroughly. It's amazing to me they are publishing these reports all of a sudden this week. And from someone who's been doing this for a long time, you don't see sentiment change this quickly because it was projected 2 weeks ago that, hey, a Biden win is actually going to be good for Wall Street. These guys are sending notes out that, hey, again, all of a sudden, that a Biden win, along with a Democratic Senate and House, is no longer good for equities. Now, I'm going to break this down in detail of what they're saying, because money is coming off the table. You look at money flows that what Bank of America tracks, they're pulling back. They're selling stuff. It's like a change in sentiment over the past week. And with Biden leading, there's a lot more stuff coming out, and a lot of this has happened after the debate. So again, it's not a political statement. I'm telling you what the street is telling their clients, along with corporate surveys of leading CEOs who also believe, most of them, that a Democratic sweep could create some massive headwinds for the stock market.